Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here at the top of Mount Chiliad with some of the new vehicles from the latest DLC. We start with the Nightshade car, of course, as you can imagine, that I like very much. It looks fantastic in orange and black, and we can get some fantastic flamethrower going on from the side of it as well. Unfortunately, well, the hikers didn't really approve, and seeing as they're going to be a pain, I mean, you were scared of the car that's pointing directly that way. Let's slowly walk with our back turned to it. Some really great logic there from the hikers, but there we go. Anyway, this vehicle immediately impressed me, actually. The amount of control, the amount of speed that could be taken with it right up until the point where it decided it wanted to roll over. Now, that is not an uncommon place to see cars roll over. However, didn't quite expect this to be a vehicle that would have that sort of an issue. I mean, we've had plenty of high-riding trucks and various mod vehicles and so on have fallen over that part. Wasn't expecting the Nightshade to go for a tumble. The other thing, it is a big, powerful rear-wheel drive car. Quite easy to spin it on some of these dirt paths. Again, the hikers are getting in the way, and I'm immediately punished with an identical roll. I didn't even clip the inside banking around that corner. If you take it too fast, it will just throw the car onto its roof, which is peculiar for a lower vehicle, for a much more sportier vehicle like this one, to be quite flung onto its roof as quickly. Again, had to be careful with the oversteer. That was another one of the bigger issues. Was easy just to overdo it that little bit too much. Back end had let go, and then you would be in quite a bit of trouble with this vehicle. Another just pushed my luck a tiny bit too much, and now we're going to go for a big spin. Admittedly, when you do spin out, the crashes tend to be less spectacular than, well, some of the other possibilities on this course. That is for sure. Another big two-wheeled moment. I managed to gather it all back under control, but I can't decide if that's a combination of bush or whether just running the banking was enough to put the car up onto two wheels. Either way, the Nightshade again got launched up onto its side. I thought that we might have many different problems with this vehicle. Rolling wasn't one that I particularly expected. After a little while, I got a clean run with the car. Brakes were pretty decent. Acceleration was pretty good. Plenty of power in this. The hikers did manage to dive out of the way that time. It's very rare that they manage to actually do anything about a car, but that time they managed to keep out of the way. Through here, I kind of found myself running a little bit wider. You see there, I was right up against sort of the outside wall there. If you wanted to take any speed, and you could take quite a lot of speed with this car, you had to kind of run a wider line, otherwise you ran the risk of rolling over. I mean, down through this section there was no problem with the Nightshade. It got turned in very nicely, easily around the hairpin. Didn't have any major problems down here. We have seen some vehicles have issues through this part of the course. Tends to be the vehicles with the worst brakes that have trouble through that section. The Nightshade, though, there are no such problems with that, and the actual bumps weren't too much of an issue either. It was oversteering, yes, but it wasn't getting, chucked about massively on the bumps. And considering this thing, I put the wheelie bar on it just because, well, there was an option for a wheelie bar. But even that didn't get caught on anything at all across the bump, so it was absolutely fine with all of that. As we run down this little side road towards the end, up towards the final very bumpy corner. I had a little bit of an issue here with the car wanting to be a bicycle. It does eventually come back down, and I keep my foot in it around the final corner there and across the finish line. And just for good measure, it hadn't had a roll the entire way down Chiliad, so it had to go for one after crossing the line. Yeah, the Nightshade is very much a FailRace car. Incredibly easy to end up rolling the vehicle, but it's quite a nice vehicle to drive. I do like it. I think it looks fantastic. Yeah, it deals with the off-roading down this part. It's an incredibly tough course to be off-roading. It deals with that absolutely fine, apart from its issue with rolling. I also love how you can just about see a NOS can in the middle there, and as far as I'm aware, there isn't nitro on the vehicle. Anyway, moving on to another car that I was very, very much excited to see in this game. It is the Mamba, essentially a Shelby Cobra. Again, we can get a fantastic flamethrower going on from the side of it. Now this car, it felt very, very fast accelerating. Admittedly, some poor hikers happened to be just the other side of that crest there, so they may have got a little bit splattered. Yeah, this car feels very, very quick accelerating. It doesn't have the most amazing top speed, but it certainly felt very, very fast. To get up to kind of 60, 70 miles an hour was very quick in this vehicle. And again, we had some pretty damn decent brakes getting it slowed down. This first run, it just been a little bit scruffy. I decided to go brave and see if I could actually take it flat out across that fast jump there. It nearly worked. It could almost do it, but not quite, unfortunately, for the Mamba, as we twist and turn and eventually hit a small bush, and that's what causes the car to explode. None of the high-speed rolling or whatnot, but no, it was the bush at the bottom of the hill there that is the one that would upset it. This was, again, another car I very much liked. A lovely vehicle to drive, as I may have pushed my luck just a little bit too much. It was one of these cars that you kind of kept pushing because there was a lot of grip. There were good brakes in it, and you would find that if you did slightly ever overstep that mark, you kind of had a really, really very big crash because you were trying to get this thing to go really quite quick. It certainly felt a very fast car to drive. Again, much like we saw with the Nightshade, a little bit of oversteer with the Mamba. Yeah, it didn't take too much to get this vehicle sliding, and while it wasn't as easy to roll as the Nightshade, if you got it wrong through this section, it sure enough would go over. I'd kind of figured that this car surely this one here wouldn't also have rolling issues. I went to take a more normal line, and nope, that didn't work. So going to have to be sticking with that wider line. Wildlife being a little bit of a pain. I think I just clipped the Coyote. It lifted the front of the vehicle up ever so slightly, ran out of turning straight into the rocks. A little too fast down towards turn 1 as well. That's what I was talking about, that it's easy to try and push this car a little bit too much. I was trying to get braver and braver on the brakes down there, and that time around there was a little bit too brave, so we find ourselves tumbling and fighting for control and trying to get the Mamba back all together again, vaguely under control. It does eventually sort of come to a rest. I was surprised actually, once it started going down the mountain, once I kind of got it on its wheels, I expected the brakes to really kick in. Didn't quite work like that, this time being a little bit more careful down towards this first corner. Yeah, I very much liked the Mamba. Again, quite similar in many ways to the Nightshade. Little more difficult to roll this one. You could be a little bit more aggressive through here. You could run that inside line a lot tighter, and it didn't have any risk of rolling. But up here, you had to go out wide to stall. Certainly, if you wanted to maintain the corner speed, you had to go out wide. Again, I mean, these corners down here were no issue for the cars. Plenty of handling. You could really chuck it around the hairpin with absolutely no worries. And again, down here had no issues with this part of the track. The brakes were plenty good enough to get it all under control, and while it is quite bumpy down here, quite easy for the cars to get bounced and thrown sideways, the Mamba was fine. It was fine all the way through that part. I think it's a tad slight less understeery than the Nightshade, oversteery, sorry, than the Nightshade. You could get it sliding around on the dirt, but on the most part, yeah, a really a rather controllable car as we come across the fast jump. A little bit of two wheels off the landing there, which I wasn't quite expecting the car to do that. Easily enough, fired it down the side, and then we come up to this really nasty corner. Down here again, we see some more two-wheeled action around there. These couple of cars did not like that second to last corner. Around the final turn though, no problem, and it is across the line for the Mamba, and managed to avoid all of the trees and get it stopped before bumping into anything, which is pretty good going for firing a car across the finish line here. A really very nice car, this one. It is quite possibly probably my favourite vehicle on GTA 5. I would go with that. It's a really very good car to drive. And finally for today, we have got the V12 Schafter. Now I believe, from what I've been reading, this is now the fastest car in a straight line, at least, in GTA 5. Certainly when fully modified. However, it's got to deal with Mount Chiliad, and it isn't fully modified. All of the cars here are completely standard, aside from the visual stuff, and if they have a wing, I'll put a wing on them. So, yeah, I was kind of curious to see how this vehicle would do. The long wheelbase one isn't particularly fast, as I found out in the versus the Army, but yeah, this V12 normal one is supposed to be a very quick car. And, you know, again, much like with the previous two vehicles, it drove pretty well on this first attempt. We managed to jump over a cougar when you could make the most of the power. Sure enough, you could get some decent speed out of it, but on a course like this, you know, you're not really going to be able to get to use much of the power. Made a slight mistake taking the too wider a line there, clipped the rocks, and kind of all threw me out for further down the course, and well, we were never quite making the corner down that part of the track. Again, another powerful rear-wheel drive car. I could slide it around a little bit, but wasn't too much of a problem. Just got a little bounce on the landing. We saw the Land Rover Defender a couple of episodes ago having lots and lots of troubles on that part there with the heavy landing, bouncing the car back up into the air. Whatever it was that time around, but only that time around did I have problems with the Schafter. Took a little too much speed across the fast jump. They got a huge amount of airtime. I was faffing about with in-air control and couldn't quite get at the angle I wanted. Ended up messing up even more than it was already. So we may have ever so slightly exploded. The V12 didn't take too long at all though to get a clean run with this vehicle. Another remarkably easy to drive, powerful rear-wheel drive car, this one. There is, as I said, plenty of speed, but you only get to use it in a very small section. This is one of them. You can get up to some decent speed down here, then you'll get on the brakes, get it stopped. That time I was even braver running the inside of the corner there. No real fear of rolling in this particular car, and it was, you know, very nice and controllable through here. Again, I mean, it is a larger vehicle than the other two, but there were no issues getting it around the hairpin. I'd suspect you'd be alright getting a long wheelbase around there as well, to be honest. It's got plenty of agility. Again, no issues down this part of the course. Brakes were very, very good on this guy. I mean, 3 vehicles with incredible brakes is nice after the Volvo truck last time out. Yeah, it got stopped very, very well around that part. Then we come up towards this jump, this time getting the landing much better. It did bounce the front up a little bit, but we still managed to get it around the corner, and again tackling this high-speed jump, the landing very, very nice. We get it a tiny bit onto 2 wheels, but nowhere near as much as the Mamba. Then we fire it down this side road. The bushes causing no issues for this car. Up around the second to last corner. No 2-wheeled action this time out. Again, dealing with the bumps remarkably well. It's such a nasty, bumpy final, or second to last corner, sorry. It dealt with them with complete ease. Fortunately, we did end up in a tree, crossing the finish line, lost 3 of the 4 doors, and then got ourselves into real trouble. The Schafter is a little bit wedged in the ditch. I was trying to reverse out because I didn't think I was quite going to have the turning to go forward, so I was trying to get the car in reverse to get it out of the ditch, and it just wasn't really moving. All of the mountain bikers are there laughing at the stuck super saloon. I managed to get it forward, trying to shunt it to a point where I had the turning circle to get out. Eventually get it to a better angle, and we do free the car. However, that impact with the tree had bent up the front wheel. That was probably why it was stuck quite well in the ditch there with a locked front wheel. Yeah, okay, the damage on that one there was done after it crossed the line. It was, though, a very good car, a very easy car to drive as well down the side of Mount Chiliad. Wasn't expecting all 3 of these to be as easy to drive as they were. And it was the Schafter that would go quickest. A 1:24.5 puts it just a couple of tenths of a second faster than an Aston Martin GT3 car. It's only a tenth down on the Kuruma, the Evo 6. However, it doesn't beat the Peugeot 508. As good as the V12 is, the Peugeot still a little bit quicker around here. Yeah, the Schafter was a decent car though, certainly, at getting down at Chiliad. Further down, and we find the Mamba and the Nightshade incredibly close. Only 0.3 of a second separate them. The Mamba in 39th with the Nightshade in 41st. This is a very, very busy part of the table down here. 29.6. It goes. The Mamba goes slightly behind the Chino and the Rebel Technical. They're separated by the Tampa. It's all all very close around that part of the table. They're decent times. I actually thought the Mamba might be a little bit quicker. Certainly the acceleration in that car feels phenomenal. But it only manages 39th. I do love the Mamba. Both of them were nice and easy cars to drive. I thought they might have a lot more troubles getting them down the mountain, but nope, they were really quite nice vehicles to drive. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.